Hey everybody, Omar here, the Knife Shark Guy, and I'm back with another custom piece for you, as you can see. And the knife that I'm going to present to you today is made none other than my favorite custom knife maker from South Africa, John Arnold. This is my third custom piece by John Arnold. There's his emblem right there. Let me just quickly bring out the other two knives that I have made by John Arnold. So there you have it, my John Arnold mini collection. You've probably seen both these knives before, and if you haven't, you can check them out on the channel. I just wanted to show you that I have three of them, and he is my favorite knife maker from South Africa. So, John Arnold's designs are very, very unique from anything that I've ever seen before. There's sort of a continuity about him that you just don't get in other knives, but you can certainly see the similarities in all three designs here just from looking at the handle. And to get started and to make it a little bit more quicker and moving along, let's go ahead and do the specs for this. So the name of this knife is called the Simba Tactical Interframe Front Flipper with black G10 carbon fiber and moon glow backspacer, which means that the backspacer glows in the dark. Very, very cool right there. It's also on my M390 John Arnold piece. That's kind of the, I don't know if he's the only guy that does a glow-in-the-dark backspacer, but I have not seen this on any of the other custom knives down at the Blade Galleries, so I'm assuming that's an exclusive thing that John Arnold does with his pieces, is, you know, he makes him, you know, a glow-in-the-dark backspacer over there, so why don't we get rid of the specs right out of the way. First of all, you need to know this knife is all handmade, and it is one of a kind, which makes it a treasured piece. Let's go ahead and do the specs for this knife. The blade length is 3.3 inches. The cutting length is 3 inches. The total length is 8.30. The blade height is 1.10 inches. Near the bolster, the blade thickness is 0.16 inches. Near the midpoint, which would be this part right here, it's 0.15 inches, and near the tip of the knife right there, you're looking at 0.8 inches. The item weight is 5 ounces, and the knife weighs 6.6 ounces. Now, this knife is not all made only by John Arnold. It is important to know that the Damascus blade itself was forged by a gentleman named Mike Norris, who actually, because forging Damascus onto steel is actually an art form, and I have to assume that John Arnold wanted to work with the best, so he got Mike Norris to do that for him. I believe Mike Norris is also from South Africa as well, so that's what also makes this knife very interesting. What I love about this piece is that black marble carbon fiber. The light really makes it sheen on that, kind of shine a little bit. It is on both sides of the knife, as you can see. Very, very artistically done. And I believe the marble carbon fiber was inserted into the G10 inlay. This is also probably one of the first knives I've ever seen where there's actually some sort of a grip for your finger right there when you grab it in your hand. Your index finger goes right there. So that's probably the first time I've ever seen that on a custom piece. So that's kind of nice. They add a little bit of tool factor on there. The pocket clip also is all titanium, blue anodized, as well as the liners. Again, you can see how nice, smooth, and how tight those blue titanium liners are. Really very pretty. The knife itself, this knife runs at around $850. So it is a pricey knife, but for what you get, It's really worth it. This is a front flipper knife, so you're going to probably have to learn how to flip this thing open. It takes a while to, I don't want to say master, but if you're not used to front flippers, you know, it's something you're going to want to get into or learn how to do. The knife is very, very smooth, provided that it doesn't kick back like I just did there. It will almost practically fall shut. I don't want to hit the camera, so there you go. So it does kind of fall shut. What's interesting about the knife is that it's got a lot of rounded edges, and then it comes to this pointy thing down at the end. I don't know what this is for. I believe it is, obviously it's for the lanyard. Maybe, you know, if this piece here were like titanium, it might be seen as maybe a glass breaker, but I don't think so, because this is actually made out of G10. So there you have it. The Damascus blade on this is just absolutely gorgeous. It is my very first Damascus piece. I've never owned a Damascus knife, so I had to definitely get a hold of that. Really unique knife. The centering on this is ridiculously dead on. Perfect. Most custom knives, the centering is not going to come into question. That's just something that's automatic with every custom piece you get. They're almost always, always perfectly centered. But I've given my opinion on centering before, and that is that if it's a knife that you're going to be using, in reality, centering really doesn't matter. Simply because the more you use a knife, the more the knife is going to be off-center eventually. Over the years, it will go off-center, but it is still a nice feature when you're buying a knife to know that a knife is at least already perfectly centered when you first buy the piece, so that's kind of important. So let's go ahead and get into some size comparisons. I got some different ones for you guys this time instead of my last video that I did earlier, like an hour ago, when I did the Keith Kruger piece. I put it up against knives you guys didn't know. This time, that's not going to be the case. So let's go ahead and get into the size comparisons. Here it is up against the Kershaw Leak. I'm sure most of you guys have one of these pieces in your collection. So there you go, the Kershaw Leak, right? So there you have it, the Kershaw Leak. Let's also go ahead, while we're at it, shove in his cousin, also made by Ken Onion, the Blur. So you can check both these videos out because this actually is a different blade, a blade seal for both these, and also you know, different versions of these knives. What I'm saying is that these are not regular Leaks and Blurs. So if you want to check out that video, you can go ahead and do that. So there you go, up against the Kershaw Blur and the Kershaw Leak. And how about up against the Chris Reeve Nkosi, another great knife maker from South Africa. Chris Reeve is kind of hard to find, as everybody knows. Some people call him a mid-tech knife maker. Other people just call him a really great production knife maker that makes knives the way he wants to. Here it is up against the Sebenza 21. So there you have it. As you can see, this is a medium-sized knife. What I love about this piece is that the top part of the knife is mirror polished, right? And then it breaks right into the Damascus blade there on both sides of the knife. Really, really fantastic. Like I said, the Damascus was forged by Mike Norris, and he did a fantastic grind on that. I love the swedging on that. As you can see, it comes down to a swedge here, and then it comes up to this point here with that midline going all the way down. That is really attractive to me. I love the way that looks. The blade shape is sort of like, I don't know, like a modified Warncliffe style, I guess. In other words, you know, when you could probably use it perfect for chopping or whatever you'd want to do with the knife. Most people like to have that nice flat surface, you know, when they're using something cutting edge, which is probably why the drop point is so popular. Drop point style blade. The blade is also, the action on this, as I mentioned before, very, very smooth. Like I said, it is a front flipper, so you'd want to learn how to do that. This is IKBS ball bearing system for that nice smooth action. And the scales are domed for comfort. In other words, if you look up at that, if you could see that, they are kind of sort of rounded there for grip. So your hand, you know, has a good feel to it when you're holding it. So that's always fantastic on the piece. That glow-in-the-dark backspacer is really nice. I wish I could show that to you, but I've turned off the light and you won't be able to see the knife anymore, so got to figure something else out for that. The titanium, the pivot is also made of titanium as well, so that's kind of cool feature. Blue anodized pocket clip, which really has a kind of a nice spring to it. Myself, I'm not a pocket clip user. I just put the knife in my pocket. Overall, a fantastic artistic piece. One thing, you know, again, that's the reason why you collect customs, for the uniqueness. You know, production knives just simply don't have that. You know, there's no individuality involved in a production piece. When you get a production piece, knives like this are made by machine and they pump them out, you know, by the thousands, whereas on a custom piece, you're getting something completely individual. And of course, in this case, it's one of a kind, which is why these knives are so expensive. That, plus the idea of the materials that are being used. So overall, it is just a fantastic piece. You know, custom knives are kind of a nice balance between tool and art. So, you know, you're not getting just a tool anymore. You're actually getting a mechanical sculpture. Or I guess you want to call it works of artistic engineering, I guess. As I've also said in the last video, you know, the materials used to make a knife really depends on the region that the knife is made. In this case, it's South Africa. And the more popular a knife maker is in South Africa, and also the more experienced he is, the more exotic materials he will be using. I mean, if you want an example, go to AfricanKnives.com, check out a guy named Thuns Prinsloo. I mean, he's like using materials that are so strange. We're talking like giraffe bone and elephant tusk and all these other weird materials to make a knife out of. You know, and that would be considered very exotic as opposed to something like this. Because to be honest with you, I don't think I'm even ready for a Thuns Prinsloo piece just yet. I'm going to, you know, kind of hold off on that. But I do plan on getting one of his knives, provided that I find one that I like. So there you have it, the Simba Tactical Interframe Front Flipper with black G10 carbon fiber and Moonglow backspacer, glow-in-the-dark backspacer with Damascus steel blade forged by Mike Norris. Again, one of a kind, handmade. You will never see a knife like this ever again. In other words, you'll never see another duplicate exactly like this. You may see a knife made by John Arnold similar to this with maybe different scales, maybe a different color, maybe yellow anodized titanium liners and maybe a yellow pocket clip, but you're never going to see one that's exactly the same. And that is the whole point of getting a custom knife, is you're getting an individual piece made all by hand by the knife maker himself, all attention paid by the knife maker making this thing by hand. So that's kind of a, sort of makes it kind of a special thing to understand as well. As I've said before, if you're going to get into custom knives, I would not go on eBay to buy one unless you see the certificate of authenticity on the knife. Most knives have that certificate of authenticity, which I'm talking about looks like this. As you can see, there's a certificate of origin by John Arnold, and each individual knife maker has their own, and there it is, signed by the knife maker. There's a signature right there, and that's the date that the knife was made, as you can see. So that's very important when you're getting a custom piece. Otherwise, you don't know what you're getting. And there are a lot of knives on eBay that I don't mean to knock eBay. There are a lot of custom knives on eBay that are originals. I will give them that. But if you're gonna buy those, you better know your knife makers. Because without a certificate of authenticity, you're not gonna get anything out of that. So it's just, you know, you wouldn't know what you're getting, and I think that's one of the problems you're going to have to overcome. You're going to have to do a little bit more educated on buying knives like this. But, you know, again, one quick way, just don't get one without the certificate. So there you have it. My third John Arnold piece, Simba Tactical Interframe Front Flipper with black G10 and carbon fiber. I hope this has been somewhat educational for you, or maybe you might be inspired to start your own custom knife collection. Keep in mind, you probably will go broke or go on some serious credit card debt, so you want to be careful of doing that. I have not yet done that, but, you know, it does happen. You know, you have a passion for something and just get a little carried away. So once again, this is Omar, the Knife Shark Guy, signing off. Give you another shot of all my 3 John Arnold pieces before I close. So there you have it, John Arnold Triage. And this is Omar, the Knife Shark Guy, signing off. Hoping you'll find one of these 3 knives in your collection. So there you go. Until next time, this is Omar, the Knife Shark Guy, signing off. Have a great evening.